Hello and welcome once again to Superconnectivity. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor S. With me as always is...
Phil, me and Parrot.
Hey, Phil. So glad to have you. This is a great night for the Nuff Said feed, the Superconnectivity Marvel Roundup family. We just finished an amazing interview with none other than Jim Zub, the writer of Thunderbolts and the upcoming writer of Uncanny Avengers. Folks, right now I want you to take a moment, pause, just go for a pause. If you have Wi-Fi where you are, go for a pause, look up jimzub.com. And at that site, you're going to find some of the most fascinating reading you're ever going to find on comic books and the nature of writing comic books you're ever going to see. And I really highly recommend that. This guy is really a brilliant artist in the field of comic book narrative storytelling, and you will not do wrong to follow him, to friend him, to like him, and of course listen to our epic interview with this guy, because this guy is just such a brilliant guy to listen to talk about comic books. You're going to thank us later when you listen to it. So please do that, folks. The Jim Zub interview on the Marvel Bullpen, only on the Nuff Said feed, part of the Southgate Media Network. Okay.
And then go out and buy one of his books.
Oh, heck, I assume you're all buying them already, quite frankly. Whether you're buying Thunderbolts or you're going into his non-Marvel fare like Wayfarer and Glitter Bomb and Dungeons and Dragons. And I'll be honest with you, kids, I'm like you. Maybe if you are a hardcore Marvel nerd like me, you hadn't gotten those yet. Although, man, I tell you, I have been wanting to pick up, which you didn't mention, Figment for a while. I don't know exactly. I don't know if he's just the artist on Figment or he writes and draws Figment, what exactly. I've been wanting to go to Figment. He didn't call it out, but yeah, I get the feeling that all of his stories are pretty awesome. And, yes, pick up his books. He is a pretty great author. Just if you've been reading Thunderbolts along with me and Phil, you know how pretty cool this guy is when you get to his characterization, and you hear him talk about how he got into comic books, and it's like, oh wow, I didn't realize that I had a twin that was successful. Yeah. So it's pretty awesome. Anyway, moving right along. Phil, do we want to talk good news or bad news?
Why don't we start with bad news?
Oh, okay, let's start with the bad news. Iron Fist. Soon to be a podcast called Fisting with Maz and Chaz. Actually, we're probably going to call it the Iron Cast, because it is a pretty cool name. Although the Kunlun crew was pretty good, that's one of our front runners. Hey, kids, if you have an opinion on what me and Ma should call the Iron Fist podcast, feel free to write to me at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, just like the show, and all one word, @gmail.com. And of course, you can even PM me on the Twitters, which I think is a thing, at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser, 2 E's right through the middle for quality. And let us know what you think the Iron Fist podcast should be called. Right now, our front runners are Ironcast, Fisting with Maz, Kunlun Crew, and I actually thought the cast iron fist was a good one, but no one seems to think that putting cast at the beginning works. And granted, grammatically, it's weird, but you get that cast iron pun. You see, so for me, the pun is worth the grammatical error.
You two do all the Netflix shows, so I think you should just have one title for whatever show you review. I think you should do Heroes for Hire. Mm-hmm. That way, Maz can be the Iron Fist. He can throw out some kind of Zen thought every episode, and then you can call people jive turkeys every episode.
There we go. Well, I was actually thinking we could call it, when we get to Defenders, I was thinking we could call it either Don't Get Defensive.
That's good.
Don't Get Defensive, the Don't Get Defensive podcast. And then we could just call everything the Don't Get Defensive podcast moving forward. But I don't think we can call out the Defenders before the Defenders have dropped. That's my only thinking on it. That's as I try to work this out. And of course then they have the Punisher. Is the Punisher a Defender? Or is the Punisher just a guy who shoots people? Maz is chomping at the bit to talk about the Punisher. He is really excited to do. We're going to try and get through this Jessica stuff, get through Iron Fist, just so Miles can get to Daredevil Season 2 and The Punisher. Because, honestly, Punisher was pretty awesome. Anyway, So the bad news, speaking of all these great things in the Netflix universe, the bad news is Iron Fist, not so much. There have been... Disney, Marvel, Netflix dropped the first 6 episodes on some critics. We, for some reason, were not in the group. Sad, Marvel, sad. Because, we would have given you that positive review just because we give everything a positive review. Well, not everything, but, and here's my thing. So, we got a lot of very negative reviews. And there are a lot of, and here's the thing about the negative reviews. There are those that call out the, social questions about Iron Fist, the mighty whitey trope, the white savior trope, all these ideas. There are reviews that throw that out there, but then there are those that are not throwing that out there who just say they didn't really feel it was a strong outing. And it's hard for us to say because, we did not merit that first issue drop. First 6 episodes drop. And so it's hard for us to say, but if I were to defend, here's the breakdown of Iron Fist I'm going to put out there. Iron Fist differentiates from Jessica and Luke and even Daredevil in that Iron Fist's origin is a real classic Golden Age origin. Not for nothing, his origin is basically the same origin as the Thin Man. If you remember the Thin Man as a superhero, one of the first stretching superheroes, who basically goes to the Himalayas, learns the secrets, and comes back with the power to stretch, because he was a big fan of the Indian Rubbermen. Honestly, it's a crazy origin, except that, if you make it about a kung fu and not about being a guy in a freak show, it's actually, it's pretty similar, weirdly enough. He is, a billionaire industrialist who has to learn the ways of an ancient sect. Where have I heard about a billionaire industrialist who learned ancient ways of martial arts, Phil? Can you think of any other superheroes with that as an origin?
Let me think. Let me go down into my...
Might help if he's also an orphan.
Let me go down into my cave and think about it. I don't know.
Yeah. So he has a very golden age origin. And this is the other thing that I think kind of differentiates him from the other characters. Iron Fist comes from basically, in the 1970s, Marvel said, well, what do the kids like? Let's make a comic book about that. Back in the 50s, they made comic books about cowboys because, hey, the kids, they love the cowboys. So that's how you got Rawhide Kid and the Two Gun Kid and various other. I don't know if the first Ghost Rider was actually a 50s comic character, but he's in that universe. And Rawhide Kid's still awesome. Two Gun Kid's pretty cool too. And of course Kid Colt. I think Kid Colt was actually like the big draw among all three, which is funny because Kid Colt's kind of faded into the background. I think Two Gun and Rawhide have definitely overshadowed him in the modern Marvel universe. But that's a whole other conversation. So basically in the 70s, Marvel said, well, what's big now? And they said, well, they have this field called Blaxploitation where they take a black hero and give him basically, some kind of radical hippie hipster ideals, and give him a name like Black Dynamite for a modern Blaxploitation, or Shaft, or what have you, or Black Belt Jones, one of the greatest blaxploitation films ever, the one that merges the blaxploitation and the kung fu genre, which is the kung fu genre, which was the other thing that was getting big at that time in the grindhouse scene. Of which Iron Fist comes. Now, whereas blaxploitation came from a place of very specific social relevance at the time, and which has only evolved over time to the point where you can have modern day blaxploitation films that speak to the modern relevance of it. I mean, you can even make the argument that one of the biggest films in the country right now, what's it called, Get Out by Jordan Peele, is in its own way a blaxploitation genre piece. In the fact that it is about that black experience, this time filtered through the concept of horror. Kung Fu, however, was from a different world. Kung Fu, first off, is by its nature, an inherent fantasy world. Because it is about how people have trained their bodies to be the Supermen, And that Kung Fu universe, that Kung Fu genre, it's beautiful. It's wonderful. I love Kung Fu films. I've always loved Kung Fu films. But when you're coming off of all of these relatively socially relevant pieces, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, even Daredevil, which is, if nothing else, is about a otherly able gentleman who has achieved superhero status. That's pretty cool in its own right. And then we go to, I'm a white guy with lots of money, and I also learned Kung Fu. It's gonna come as a step down. And that's why, as bad as the reviews have been for those first 6 issues, I'm a little more positive about it than maybe some people are. Because I recognize that was kind of gonna be inevitable. What do you think, Phil?
Well, I mean, 2 points. One, yeah, they're only getting like the first half of the season, so it's like, can you imagine trying to review like a book or a comic book where you've only read the first half of it? Mm-hmm. I mean, you're not getting like the whole picture. It's gonna be kind of skewed. But I mean, I could see maybe they don't like the tone. But but it's a completely different animal than all the shows we've had before, because Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, they've all been set. They've been grounded more in reality and that street level. Iron Fist is more of that mystical, kung fu stuff. I mean, if they wanted to take it to the potentially it could be as, get up there mystically like in Doctor Strange territory. Well, yeah. So I don't know if maybe people are just feeling it because it's out of the 4, that's going to be the one that has a way different tone.
Well, you know what I think? I think what it is, and here's what I'm going to say. I get the feeling that maybe those first 6 episodes are building something. And because they're building, and essentially it's this idea, and this is, I think this is maybe even something that you had to deal with. I mean, I think Doctor Strange actually had a lower bar because, of course, you had already had Thor. You already had Guardians of the Galaxy. You already had stuff that stepped beyond just the normal mundane, where the Hulk was the biggest thing you ever had to worry about. If we look at Iron Fist, they don't have that. We don't have, we didn't introduce Damon Hellstrom in Jessica Jones. So we are really walking into this. And so I do wonder if maybe some of the slowness people are talking about in those first 6 episodes derives from this idea that we've got to spoon feed this into this. So that I imagine that after the 7th episode, maybe things explode. But then you have this question is, well, why did they give them the first 6 episodes if the 7th episode is the good one, But of course then maybe they were like, well, we want to get to that point where it's boiling and then do the reveal. I can imagine that. And then, of course, the other option is that they're all just terrible. We don't know. We won't know until next week. But although by the time this airs, it'll just be a few days away. So, you never know. But I do think that there is this idea. And then the other aspect of it is that because Iron Fist is coming from a much shallower pool, if you will, that, Kung Fu and being a billionaire, it's a much less complex storyline than either being the victim of Purple Man exploitation or prison experiments. Danny Rand has lived pretty much a charmed life, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. So it's the tension has to be a bit more manufactured. And it probably has to have a much slower burn. Because if you jump right into conflict right there, it's not going to feel real either. You know what I mean? So, I mean, honestly, we're going to be reviewing it. Me and Maz are going to be reviewing it regardless. But I right now have positive hopes about what we're going to get.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. And again, they only got the first 6 episodes. I mean, episode 8 could be like a big turning point, or things get turned on their head.
Well, they often are. That's always that thing I always say about, it's an interesting thing. Like I said this a while ago. You go back and watch season 1 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on Netflix, and you realize that if you're watching it episode to episode, it's a much more energetic prospect than what you had when you were just watching it week to week. Because week to week, it seems like a bunch of filler episodes. It seems dull. You don't see the connections. Because the connections don't come in until later in the season. But when you get those connections at the end of the season, you're like, oh, that's what all this was about. It makes a lot more sense. So I do wonder if Iron Fist is going to start slow and finish strong. We're going to have to see. But, yeah, I mean, that's Iron Fist. I mean, we don't have much on it. And I will say this for what it's worth. I was always skeptical of Iron Fist once they cast a guy with curly blonde hair. Those curls do not work for me for Iron Fist. I don't know whose decision it was to give Iron Fist curly hair, but it just really did not work for me. I don't know. Do you like the curly hair, Phil?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with the actor. Does he have curly hair? Did they just let him use his,
Yeah, no. You've not seen any of the set photos yet?
Yeah, I've seen the hair, but I'm just saying, does he have naturally curly hair? Did they just say, your hair's your hair? Or?
I honestly have no idea if he has naturally curly. I assume so, because who would put a person with curly blonde hair in a lead role if that wasn't just the natural look?
Yeah.
I mean, he looks like Hyde from that '70s show. I'm feeling that I want to say it's something Masterson, but it's not the Masterson who played Spike. So it's like,
is it Danny Masterson?
Yeah, that's it, Danny Masterson. I don't know if they're related. That would be crazy if they were related. I don't think they are. But Danny Masterson, of course, and him and Ashton Kutcher actually have another really good sitcom on Netflix. It's just one of those things. It's like, oh yes, with my extra 4 hours, I'll watch that one too. But Danny Masterson and Ashton Kutcher have a fantastic sitcom. I think it's called The Ranch on Netflix. It's hilarious. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. But I don't get the chance to watch it because, I've got all this other nonsense I've got to watch and read to take care of all these podcasts. But, for what it's worth, I do get paid, lucrative money for that, I do have my diamond-studded Mercedes to thank for all the money I make of podcasts and all the time it takes. So... Okay.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to us common people.
Well, no. I mean, you're in the podcast world too, Phil. I'm sure you have your time.
Yeah, I know. I try to act humble, but yeah.
I know. Well, I mean, you probably had that. You probably bought the Ruby Mercedes because you're more practical than I am. You got that Ruby Mercedes. Yeah, it's Ruby studded. It's a car you can drive to the store. And I get that. I only take the Diamond Mercedes out on weekends when I'm just driving for no reason because I just like to waste gas.
Oh, please don't lie to people. You cover everything in gold.
Yes. Well, I didn't say there wasn't gold on it. It's just that the diamonds are on top of the gold. You have to put the diamonds in something, Phil. Come on. Okay. Moving right along. So that's Iron Fist. Here's the thing. It's like, I'm going to watch it, I saw Fantastic Four. Still haven't seen Old Man Logan, though, and I want to see that. I'm like, it's just a bad week financially, and
you can't take your kids.
No, I can't take my kids. That's the thing. I don't like hey, kids, let's all go see Old Man Logan. It's kind of like when Deadpool came out. I was like, and, for what it's worth, my youngest really wanted to see Deadpool. I'm like, We'll discuss. And then I saw it, and I said, we're not going to discuss this anymore. Eventually, it's going to be on TV, and we'll watch the TV edit. Or you'll be old enough to go see the actual R-rated cut at some point, but not today. But yeah, I mean, I want to see Old Man Logan. It looks fantastic. I hear nothing but good about it.
I'll let you know. We're going tomorrow, so I will let you know.
It's kind of the anti-Iron Fist. But right now,
although I was gonna say, I'm sorry. I was gonna say, tough judge of movies, Lilith Hellfire, said she liked it.
Lilith liked it. Well,
Yeah.
I may have to hate it just on principle then, since she is my arch nemesis. She's still my arch nemesis. I know Zach wants the job, but I'm sorry. There are so few people who can compete with Lilith Hellfire to be my arch nemesis. Anyway, I did say that was good news and bad news. I'm trying to remember what is good news in the Marvel Universe this week.
Well, I mean, Old Man Logan was #1 at the box office its first week, and I would assume it's probably going to kick butt this weekend too.
Yeah, well, I mean, not for nothing.
It's getting good reviews. I mean, it's not like some of the other Fox movies where they say it's garbage. I hear nothing but good things.
Yeah, man, but a lot of shade being thrown at Fox by the stars of this, because you did hear what both Patrick Stewart and who plays Logan now?
Hugh Jackman.
Huge Jackman. Yes, huge. Hey, he has a huge Jackman. We all know that. Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart both stated that this was their final role unless something happens. And what did they say? If something happens, they'd reprise their roles for, Phil?
Appearance in the MCU.
Yeah, and you keep on hearing this from the actors, and it's like kind of a really sad shade to throw at the people at Fox, because really Fox is the only people who are still making Marvel movies outside of the Marvel bannerhead, and it's interesting to me, because it's like, I mean, even the guy who played Doctor Doom in that very bad Fantastic Four, basically he got on the bench. He said, "I'm not going to play Doctor Doom again unless it's in a Marvel film," and it's like, oh, sweetheart, no one was asking, right? No one.
Yeah.
No one was reaching out to you to say, "Hey, you want to play Doctor Doom again?" No one was doing that.
Yeah, but do you think they just say that, because they might even come back to Fox, if they backed up the money truck?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you back up the money truck, everyone should. Heck, I'd be Doctor Doom. Money.
Oh, I know. They'd have to. They really have to force you. I know.
Yeah, $10 and a 6-pack. I'm not gonna. But here's what I'm gonna say. As long as it's not a light beer, I'll take whatever 6-pack you get. But yeah, I mean, no, but you can back up the money truck and a lot of people will show up. I mean, I'm certain Patrick Stewart isn't so comfortable in his life that he's not going to do another Professor X if Fox was willing to pay him for it. But here's what it comes down to. He knows what Fox is going to pay him for it because they're already paying him for it. He knows what his agent can get on the Patrick Stewart line. Now, for what's interesting is that all of the young Professor X and the young Magneto have both basically said the same thing. We're not coming back unless it's in a Marvel film. And it makes you wonder, like, what is... I mean, obviously I know what's so amazing about Marvel films, but it makes you go like, this is really the narrative in Hollywood right now that, you don't want to be in these side projects. And it makes, it's interesting how it plays out. I mean, I'm hoping that, I would, here's the thing. Here's the thing of it. I'm not that worried about whether or not the X-Men come back to the Marvel Universe. I'm not an X-Men fan to start. So whether or not they actually get to the Marvel Universe, it's really secondary to me. Marvel would like them back. And Marvel certainly still loves the X-Men. The X-Men are very popular, and they're actually a pretty cool concept.
And they're making a comeback in the comics.
Oh, yeah. Don't to quote LL Cool J, don't call it a comeback. They've been here for years. Sorry. Put the mute on after I cough. But no.
Professionals.
Yeah, you go in the computer, it doesn't.
Yeah.
But for real, I mean, the mutants have been central to the Marvel storyline for years. They never really moved to the background. There is literally one meeting that is the entire, Marvel hates the mutants thing that derives from somebody saying that Perlmutter in some big meeting once said, "Why are we promoting the X-Men if we don't own their films?" And of course, someone then like in the next scene said, "Oh, but we do own their T-shirt and toy rights." And Perlmutter said, "Oh, well, great then. They keep on promoting the X-Men because they never stopped promoting the X-Men. Yeah, they did push some other projects as well, but it's like, oh, they're not making the X-Men the center. What it is, honestly." I kind of do feel sometimes that there is an X fan in the Marvel universe. There's the Marvel fans, and then there are the X fans.
Mm-hmm.
And the X fans only like mutant books. It's like, I like mutants, I like mutant books, but I like mutants in the panoply of the Marvel universe that includes Inhumans and Superhumans and just regular dudes who are putting on costumes to fight something. And I like that. But there are people that only want to read the X books, only want to read the mutant books. And then anytime anything doesn't make the mutant books the center, they feel it is a slight. It's what I call mutant privilege.
No.
And if you do have mutant privilege, you might have mutant privilege if you think that anytime someone doesn't, and when a book doesn't have Wolverine guest starring, that you think that that's Marvel saying mutants suck. Where in fact, the fact that Wolverine is in every other book is actually Marvel saying, hey, Wolverine's real popular, we're gonna totally ride this money train for as long as we can. And that's the thing, it's like I always say, the deal that Sony made with Disney, all it gave to Disney was creative rights. It really gave them no extra money. It just said, you don't have to worry about using these things now, so long as we're getting our piece.
Mm-hmm.
That was the Universal and the Sony deal, was that you can use Hulk as much as you want, but we get a piece. And when it comes to something like the Fox universe, it'll be the same deal, because Marvel doesn't really care about getting the box office money back. They'd like it. It's nice. It's big money. But quite frankly, if you actually, and let me make a fun fact about Marvel. If Sony's paying for the film, you have way less of an incentive on the film. The film is now a commercial from Disney's point of view for toys, games, and T-shirts.
Mm-hmm.
And you always spend more money on a T-shirt or on the promotion than you expect to get back from the promotion itself. Because the promotion itself, you get $0 back. You spend money on it. So basically what Sony and Universal have done is they said, well, here's our money, make a film, and Marvel says, sure. Let's sell some T-shirts, So I mean, I think that Marvel is in a great spot there. I think that Marvel certainly wants to move forward with these things, but at the end of the day, all they want is the creative rights because it's helpful for them to have the creative rights. But the fact of the matter is that what it comes down to is all Disney and Marvel wants are the creatives, but Fox. That's the one thing they don't have is the creatives that can actually make a good show. Although maybe Old Man Logan turns that around. And, for what it's worth, we know that like I said, Deadpool saved Fox's Marvel line. If it wasn't for Deadpool, I do think that the mutants would be back at Marvel by now.
So do you think, with the success of Deadpool and now the success of Logan, Fox maybe holds off on any deal with Marvel and maybe Fox maybe not every movie, but maybe Fox becomes like the rated R line of Marvel?
It's possible. Honestly, I think there's the secondary notion, which is that now's the time for Fox to strike with Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
That basically now they're not. That prior to Deadpool and prior to Logan, they were always negotiating from a point of view. Now they can say, look, we know these are characters that have strength, and we know that we can give them strength when we figure out which is the right character to have an R rating. And for what it's worth, now Fox can sit there at the table and say to Marvel, look, we need X, Y, and Z. Now, of course, the flip side to that is that Marvel still doesn't need Fox.
Yes.
Honestly, and it's funny because the only thing Marvel really might want from Fox at this point are the Skrulls. The Skrulls and Galactus are far more profitable than the characters they're attached to.
Maybe Doom.
Here's the thing about Doom. Doom, not for nothing, Doom is Iron Fist. He is very much a throwback character. Doom
Mm-hmm.
is every aspect of his being is I'm a supervillain. There is no subtlety. The Wizard is more subtle than Doctor Doom.
Oh, jeez.
And that says, because the Wizard, for what it's worth, he's very straightforward. He's an entertainer. Yeah, he has a big purple outfit, but the fact that he keeps his face out there, because, hey, branding, I need that face out there, I mean, the Wizard is way more subtle than Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom is all, I am Doom. First off, his name is freaking Doom,
Yeah.
Not for nothing, the Wizard changed his name to the Wizard legally. His actual, prior to his legal name change, his name was, Whitman Bentley, or Bentley Whitman. It is a thing that it is a human aspect of the Wizard that he had a life and a career and everything prior to his supervillainy, whereas Doom was just always Victor Von Doom. He was never anything other than just a supervillain. And so, honestly, I'm not convinced. Here's the thing. I will say this. Outside of comic books, I don't necessarily know Doom is a strong villain. Doom, I think, is kind of like Thanos. And not for nothing, there's a reason all we've seen of Thanos is him sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
It's because he is much more powerful as the Shadow than as the Beast. The Beast is right there in front of you and you get to punch it. The Shadow is far more frightening. And so if you are going to pull out a Doctor Doom, you want Doctor Doom to be the Shadow, not the Beast.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. The only live action Doom we've gotten so far is in the Fantastic Four movies, and they always make him like the villain right out front. He needs to be a Thanos. He needs to be sitting in that chair. And they need a trio of Fantastic Four movies, and he doesn't show up till 2 or 3. The first couple he's throwing the Red Ghost and whoever else at Fantastic Four, or whoever else.
Red Ghost, I think you have to wait till the second film, unless you're going to skip an origin, because the Red Ghost is specifically meant to be a reproduction of the Fantastic Four, so he's reproducing the elements of it. Although not for nothing, what's an interesting idea? The UFOs are in the MCU, so you could actually have a Fantastic Four story, but center it around the UFOs.
That'd be interesting. I'd like to see a UFOs versus Hulk or something, or even the Avengers.
I would love to see anything with the UFOs. The UFOs are awesome. As if nothing else, just as that evil pastiche of the Fantastic Four. And they are pretty awesome. Vector, Vapor, X-Ray, and Ironclad. They're good villains. Don't get enough work. Although, as we've, it is an interesting thing to me how often I see characters that were like super obscure when I was a kid, but that I loved suddenly gaining prominence. It tells me that there's a lot of comic book nerds like myself who really fell in love with certain characters when they were reading the Marvel Handbook.
Jim Zub.
Yeah, Jim Zub too, but not for nothing. Even outside of him, the UFOs came back in Dark Reign, and the UFOs had been pulled. And like on one level, they're just a fun group of characters to bring out. But to make them real central as they have been at times recently, it certainly speaks to fanboy. Anyway. Anything else going on in the Marvel Universe this week, Phil?
No. I mean, Legion continues to be good. I don't know if you're caught up on Legion, but it's still excellent.
I was gonna watch it yesterday, and I did not get to it. I want to watch Legion. I really do. There's just so many good shows on. And here's the thing about it. I want to watch Legion. I also want to watch Westworld.
Mm-hmm.
And Westworld is not a Marvel property, so I get no points for watching it. But at the same time, I really want to watch it. Honestly, Maz really wants to do a Westworld podcast. And I would love to watch it. I would love to see it. But
I need to make time for that too. I want to see it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like there's all these things. It's like, oh, I want to make time for that. You know what else I want to make time for? Spending time with my kids.
Exactly.
That's like the, oh yeah, my wife, my kids. I should probably set some time aside for those guys too. Oh.
Yeah, I know. I hear you.
And then you have like, oh, I gotta go grocery shopping, do laundry, and I would actually like to go back to the gym since I am paying money to go to the gym every week.
Mm-hmm.
And every day I'm losing money. So it's like, oh yeah, that.
And as hard as it is to believe people, we work full-time jobs too. So
Yeah. Well, I'll admit it. The podcasting got me the Diamond Mercedes, but I still got to pay for insurance on it. That's not cheap. So, my fantasy world of Diamond Mercedes and podcast. Okay, I think the big news this week was Iron Fist, especially the negative reviews. I mean, there's always a lot going on in the Marvel Universe right now. I'm still not convinced we're not going to get a weird, crazy heel turn in Secret Empire. I'm still not convinced that the Vision is going to show up. The 1940s Vision is going to show up in Thunderbolts to maybe solve the problem. Because, again, like I said, it's a cracked up cosmic cube. That was the cosmic cube that, I'm blanking on his name now, the Russian oligarch had, and, it makes sense that that's the cube we're going to see. But, who knows where it's going to go? I don't know. I'm losing my train of thought, Phil. Shall we wrap it up?
Sure. Sound like you're winding down. We've done a lot tonight.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and this was a freaking 40-minute and plus, because we're not done yet, 40 minutes of Superconnectivity after an hour and 20 minutes of Roundup, and after an hour of our amazing bullpen interview with Jim Zub, who is amazing. Honestly, I'm like, well, that was like such a fantastic interview. It's like all other interviews are going to be held to that standard. I kind of feel bad that he was my first creator interview. I mean, I guess technically my first creator interview was with the gentleman from CBR. His name again?
Brian Cronin.
Brian Cronin. God, what is wrong with my brain this evening?
You're tired.
Yeah, I'm tired. I only got. I had my crazy stripper friend call me at 2 a.m. Oh, you know what? You should have a crazy stripper friend, but you do have to set boundaries with them. And they're wonderful people to know and to love and to be your friends with. But you have to not pick up that phone at 2 a.m. Got to make sure you put your ringer back to vibrate at 2. And I had forgotten. It rang in my Pavlovian fashion. I picked it up, and she was great, and I talked to her, and it was wonderful moments. But it's like I gotta get to bed because Friday's the day I gotta get up early because I gotta go take the train to the bank to get money for the person who watches the kids, and it's crazy. It's life is hard, Phil. That's what I gotta tell. Anyway, so we're gonna wrap it up now because I am falling asleep. You get a little bit of insight into the madness that is my life, Diamond Mercedes side. Phil, if someone would like to reach out to you and touch you, how can they do so?
Well, not to get that personal, but you can always email me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I am at nightwingpdp, and you can find me all over the Southgate Media Group, all over Enough Said right here, Before the Bat, Channel 52, and the Legends of DC podcast, where Charlie Esser also is a big name, so check that out.
Yes, only because I have so many vowels. Big name, Charlie Esser. And of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And of course, follow me on the Twitters as I live tweet Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Legends of Tomorrow, The Incredible Hulk, 7 o'clock on Saturdays, and one of my favorite shows, Powerless, on NBC. Watch it while you can, kids, because you may not get a second season because people are haters. Follow me on Twitter at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEssser with 2 E's in the middle for quality. Okay, thank you for connecting with us once again. Please connect.
Good night, world.